Good morning. Welcome to Peace Out, where we are all learning together to peace out. That was a little glitchy there. I was like, it goes 3, 2, 1, 1, 1. I'm like, okay, are you going to go ahead and go live or not? Well, I'm live. I didn't know if Facebook was going to go live with me or not, right? I didn't know if it was going to leave me hanging. I was like, are you going to come on? It always throws me off just a little bit, right? I am so glad you are here this morning, though. Thank you guys again so much for following along. And as we've traveled this journey together that we started in March of 2020, coming up on 6 years, we need to do something special on 6 years. I don't know what, but 6 is the number of grace, right? The number of man. I don't know the number of grace. 5 is grace. I've been looking at some different numbers things, so that's why I've been thinking about numbers a little bit. But we're coming up on 6 years, and so I just want to thank you again for following along, for being a part of this journey, and just hanging in there. So, and that's all I've been doing. Sometimes we're just barely hanging in there, right? sometimes it's good and it's fun and it's great. And sometimes it's like, oh, okay, come on, get up, get it together, get in there, right? I'm just being honest. Some mornings I'm like, I don't want to get dressed. So that's what weekends are for, right? So anyway, but I thank you so much for showing up. And even if you watch it later and you don't watch it live, that's totally cool too. I appreciate so much that you watch and some of you share, and I hope you are still getting something from it every day. And sometimes I learn from me too. Every once in a while I go back and watch. So I see it twice because I have to make shorts to go onto the other platforms, YouTube and TikTok. So I usually see most of it twice too. So it doesn't count as watching it, right? Because you're not supposed to watch yourself. That's weird, right? Anyway, I hope you're having a good morning. Enough silliness for the day. So I was stuck in this story today because I was thinking, and I'm praying about some things, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in Pakistan. Did you sign up for the newsletter to get all those details? And that it's just growing, and it's beyond what I can do. And that's a perfect place to be, because then I know God is pulling it out, right? I know that God is doing some things, and it's growing. And I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do that? And and it's just a step-by-step thing. So I thought of this story in 2 Kings 4, where it says Elisha helps a poor widow. Now, her husband had been among the school of the prophets, and he had worked with Elisha and as a prophet. So he was a prophet, and he had passed. And so she's like, my husband made some debts, and the debt collectors back in that day, they came and got your kids, and your kids worked it off, or they came and got you, and you worked it off. You worked off the debt, right? You could work it off. And so they were going to come take her sons away. And so Elisha says, well, what can I do? What do you have? What do you have? That's the question of the day. What do you have? Same question God asked Moses, what's in your hand? And he said, well, it's just a rod. He goes, throw it down. And he gave what was in his hand. She said, I don't have anything. I have one little jar of oil. We are so poor. All I have is one little jar of oil. And he says, okay, go borrow, to get the right word there, go borrow as many containers as you can. And she said, okay. So they did. And then he said, go close the door, you and your sons, and begin to just pour the oil. And she began to just pour the oil. The obedience is important, even when it doesn't make sense. Obedience at the edge of the Red Sea was important. Obedience for Daniel was important. Obedience is important. Had she said, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard, she'd have still just been broke, and her sons would have been working it off as slaves, right? But she said, okay, this sounds dumb. It doesnn't sound like this doesn't make any sense. I've got one flask of oil, and he wants me to just start pouring. Okay. So she starts pouring, and then God just does this miracle, and the oil fills another vessel, and she's got to go, wow, this is like the bread, the loaves and fishes, right? How did he feed 5,000? He just kept pouring, and there just kept being enough food. There just kept being enough oil in this story. So she pours it. She fills all of the containers. All of them. And she's like, go get some more containers. I've still got oil. Go get some more. And they're like, Mom, there are no more containers. We borrowed every empty container in the city. And so then they go back to Elisha, and he says, sell it. And it was enough to literally pay the debt she was concerned about and for them to live on. How amazing is that? God always does so much more than we can imagine. As a matter of fact, I'm not a history buff. There's little pieces of history I love to study when I get interested in it, but I'm a math person, and so I don't do well with history. Right? unless it's numbers. I can do okay with numbers sometimes. And so but I heard this tidbit yesterday, and so I looked it up today, and it's true. It's taught as true. We'll see. Okay. So, when they discovered the temple, when the Jews rebelled and found the temple the second time, they found enough oil for one day. And that's why I thought of this story. And I was tying this all together, right? Because they thought there was enough oil for one day. And they said, we're going to burn this oil and dedicate ourselves back to the one God, and dedicate this temple back to the one God. We're going to burn this oil that's been sitting here in the temple that had been basically destroyed, but we're going to dedicate it and ourselves back to the God of Moses, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac and Jacob, right? And so we're going to make this dedication. That's where Hanukkah was born. And so but what happened was, when they started to burn the one day's worth of oil, and they were pretty good at measurements back then, right? And eyeballing it, right? They wanted to burn that one day's worth of oil. When they began to do that, it went for 8 days. And Hanukkah was born because they began to celebrate the dedication of the temple, the dedication of themselves. Hanukkah means dedication, right? But there was so much more than they thought. Same thing with the poor widow here. There was so much more in her flask than what she could see. Same thing with the 5 loaves and 2 fishes. There was so much more than what the disciples could see. Jesus says, just feed them. Just feed them. Even with the 7 loaves and the 4,000 and the loaves and fishes with the 5,000. There was so much more than what they could see. God is a good provider. He will make sure there's more than what we can see. There's always more than what we can see. And God's capacity to give oil did not run out when she filled all those vessels. 2 things. 1, she ran out of vessels. There was nowhere to put it, right? And 2, she didn't need any more than that. It was enough. It was enough to take care of the debt and for them to live on, it says, to support her and her sons after that. Yes and amen. It's always more. And so what we want to do is enlarge our capacity to hold more of the grace of God. God's grace doesn't run out. We just want to empty out our vessel, our heart, and accept more of his grace. We can have our own personal Hanukkah without being disrespectful, right? And dedicate this temple back to God. We can do that every single day. We don't have to wait till this time of year. We don't have to wait till any particular time of year. We can just every morning get up and dedicate this vessel and go, I want you to fill this vessel with your oil. I want you to feed this vessel with the loaves and fishes that were miraculously multiplied. God's a God of multiplicity. He never did anything small. When he does something, it's big. And it's bigger than we can comprehend. It's bigger than we can figure out. It's bigger than we could have planned. It's bigger than what we could have ever imagined. Why? Because he is the creator. He saw all this before he said, let there be light. His ideas are always bigger than ours. Even though when he gives them to us, it's like, wow, that's great. That's huge. Wow. And then it gets bigger and we go, how do they get bigger? Right? Because God is bigger than us. He's smarter than us. He's got more oil than we can contain. He's got more grace than we know what to do with. We haven't even figured out but just a small part of his grace. We've only figured out a small part of those mercies that are fresh and new for us every single morning. We just need to enlarge our capacity. We need to know him more. I want to know him more. What if the disciples had known Jesus so well, they walk up to him and goes, hey, we got some loaves and fishes over here. You want us to feed the guys? Right? But they didn't. They didn't know what to do with what they had. This widow didn't know what to do with what she had. Moses didn't know what to do with what he had. So my question is, what do you have? What gifts has he given you? What is in your hand that you can use to give back to God and serve him today and every day? Right? So let's enlarge our capacity to trust him more, enlarge our capacity to receive more of his grace, because his grace is so abundant. I don't think we've even touched on how much grace we even understand he has. The faith that he gave every person a measure of faith, enough to get saved on, enough to trust him. And then we have to enlarge that capacity by trusting him more every single day, running to him, learning to peace out faster every single time, learning to walk in that faith every day when we run into those obstacles that in our brain go, oh no, I don't know. What? She was like, I don't know what to do, Elisha. What do I do? He said, well, let's look at what you have. What do you have? It was so small, but it was enough. Jesus asked the disciples, what food do you have? They said, we got 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And he goes, it's enough. Feed the people. He tells Moses, the rod, the staff is enough. Put it over the sea.